For the first time in 3 years, there is meaningful continuity around Josh Allen.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Well, folks, welcome in. I'm excited for today's conversation because we're going to have a Josh Allen Bills quarterback conversation. And I don't want to call these positional previews because I think that's boring. But I do want to start to have some position-specific conversations that get into the dynamics ahead of each position group entering 2025. And so the way I want to attack these conversations is by discussing reasons to be excited, reasons to be concerned, and reasons to be curious about that particular position group. And today, we're going to start this with the quarterback position, which means it's mostly going to be a Josh Allen conversation. So let's dive into it. We'll be doing this for every position throughout the next several weeks. I'm not going to do these every day. I'll have some rhythm and some new stuff kind of sprinkled in here and there, but this will be a big foundation of what we're going to discuss over the next several weeks on the podcast. So let's do it. Let's start by discussing why I'm excited for the Bills quarterback, specifically Josh Allen, in 2025. And I think number one, in terms of why I'm excited and why I think anyone should be excited, is what Josh Allen proved in 2024 that has him as the reigning NFL MVP. Josh Allen's been a great player for a long time. But the way that he evolved his game last year to be the exact quarterback that team needed, unbelievably impressive. Team didn't have as much defensively, right? Not as much talent, some coaching turnover, some injuries, all the new receivers, new offensive coordinator. Josh Allen perfectly became the quarterback that the Buffalo Bills needed him to be, taking care of the football, making dynamic plays, and still being the unreal player that Josh Allen is, but mixing that in with a lot more maturity in how he played the game. Became the exact quarterback that team needed him to be. And this year could take on a life of its own, and it could be very different. But that ability, that adaptability to evolve and do what's necessary, huge. I think Josh Allen's the best player in the NFL. The best. Not two, not three, the best. And so much of that is rooted in everything he proved last year. He showed us last year that no matter what's going on around him, all new pieces, not enough talent on defense, maybe not enough skill players, that the Buffalo Bills are still a team that's capable of going on a deep postseason run. And we know they took Kansas City to the brink in the AFC Championship game in a transition year because of 17. So why am I excited for Josh Allen in 2025? It's what he did in 2024, proving that he's the best player in the NFL. So that's number one. Number two is continuity. And I teased this in the cold open. But for the first time in 3 years, Josh Allen has meaningful continuity. And one thing that I do is I keep a lot of notes on the Bills. And it's helpful for developing complete opinions, but also being able to go back and look at certain intervals what I'm thinking, what I was thinking, what I was concluding based on where the team was at. And checking my notes on Josh Allen entering each of the last 2 seasons, I had questions about the continuity. Entering 2023, Josh Allen's working in 2 new starting offensive linemen, a new lead running back, 2 new wide receivers. There was a lot of turnover. I mean, obviously, Dalton Kincaid at tight end, there was a lot of new entering 2023. Same thing in 2024. New center, new left guard, 4 new receivers, new RB2, new offensive coordinator, new quarterbacks coach. A lot of turnover the last 2 years. This year, not really. Not really. What's new this year? 2 receivers and a new tight end 3. That's it. Your top 9 offensive linemen all back. Your top 2 tight ends back. Your entire running back room is back. Your coaching staff completely back. You're talking about adding in Elijah Moore and Josh Palmer to the wide receiver core. That's it. The rest of it's the same. And so instead of establishing chemistry, you're building chemistry. Instead of establishing your rhythm with Joe Brady and what conceptually you want the offense to be, you're building on that. It's a big difference. So yeah, I'm excited about meaningful continuity around Josh Allen for the first time in 3 years. And the last thing I have down for why I'm excited is what Josh Allen told us he's working on. When he had his first press conference of the new league year, he was asked, Josh, what are you working on? And somebody always asks that question. I think it's usually Jay Skursky. But I'm glad that question gets asked because Josh always gives an insightful answer. And here's what he said. He said, pre-snap recognition, identifying better what he's seeing, improving footwork with routes and combinations in terms of how that all marries up, setting protections, getting his eyes in the right spot, and having the appropriate footwork. This is high-level stuff. It's mental stuff mostly. That's where Josh Allen's at. I mean, he's well into his career. It's not simple stuff, it's advanced stuff. And I'm excited for how investments into those areas can continue to allow us to see the caliber of player we saw in 2024 and building on that, because that's pretty freaking special. So plenty of reasons to be excited about Josh Allen in 2025, building off of his MVP season from 2024. All right, coming up next, we'll get into kind of the opposite. What I'm concerned about regarding this Bills quarterback room entering 2025. We'll do that here in just a moment. Be sure to stick with me. Folks, you got to head on over to FanDuel. There are so many cool things that you can bet on, including football's futures. And whether you want to get in on some over-unders for stat projections, win totals, any type of stuff, awards, it's all over on FanDuel. There's 3 about the Bills that are interesting to me. They have the Bills at plus 360 to win the AFC. So if you think this is the year the Bills go to the Super Bowl, plus 360, that's a great payout. How about Josh Allen? They have the over-under for Josh Allen's passing yards at 3,775.5. You think Josh Allen throws for 3,776 yards or more? Get in on that over. How about this one from James Cook? The over-under for rushing yards for James Cook is 950.5. And we're talking about a guy in James Cook that's had 1,000 yards rushing each of the last 2 years. So if you like all that action, check it out over at FanDuel. Plus, you can build parlays with the Major League Baseball that's going on. So much fun. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to get in on the action. Head on over there and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, folks, let's continue this conversation discussing the dynamics of the Buffalo Bills quarterback room entering 2025. And I now want to get into things that I'm concerned about. And I think the number one thing for me is probably the number one thing for anybody. It's the depth. And it's not specifically because the depth is Mike White and Mitch Trubisky. It's that they're not Josh Allen. right? Like the drop off from Josh Allen, who I just said I think is the best player in the league, to anyone else is pretty significant. Much less replacement level backup quarterbacks like Mitch Trubisky and Mike White. I think the Bills can win the Super Bowl this year. But I don't feel that way if Josh Allen's not available. Now, fortunately for the Bills, he's been the most durable quarterback in the league. By far. Knock on wood, because that needs to continue. And hopefully if Josh Allen were to miss time, it wouldn't be but a game or two. But I also get the feeling with Josh Allen that if he's going to be injured, he's not going to miss a game or two. It's going to be significant. Like, you're not keeping this guy off the field. He could play through a freaking broken hand. You're not going to keep this guy off a football field. He's going to have to, like, literally not be able to go. But yeah, I'm concerned about the depth, and partly because it is Trubisky and White, but also just because they're not Josh Allen. And I think the floor of the team is real different. Trubisky and Mike White are probably functional NFL quarterbacks that can maybe keep their head above water, but they're not dynamic. Trubisky's had so many different opportunities to start. He's not been able to nail any of those jobs down. He's got arm talent. He can run a little bit, but ultimately not a quarterback that you're going to be able to get much done with. And Mike White, I think, is extremely limited. I mean, he's a hit your back foot and throw the football type guy. Not a lot of physical upside, but he's had some good moments in the league. I think you can do worse than Trubisky and White, but the bottom line is they're not Josh Allen. And I think based on the Bills and like what they're paying Josh Allen and how expensive the roster is, I kind of understand not wanting to put a lot of dollars into your backup quarterback spot. The Bills really value their quarterback depth in terms of how they support Josh Allen as the starter. And I think having good relationships with the depth at quarterback is with Josh Allen is what's important for the Bills. So, yeah, I'm concerned about quarterback depth, but I think even if the Bills had a backup quarterback that I'd liked, I'd still have concerns about quarterback depth because you know what? Their name's not Josh Allen. The second thing that I'm concerned about is the hopeful improvements with the vertical passing offense. Josh Allen's awesome. I told you, I think he's the best player in the league, the NFL MVP. That vertical passing offense last year was not very good. I think it was a bottom 8 vertical passing offense, however you want to measure it. And I checked my notes entering last year, and I also had concerns about vertical passing. There's been a couple years now where the Bills' vertical passing offense hasn't been very good. And to an extent, I can live with that. It's still a minor part of your overall offensive equation. Josh Allen threw the ball deep, and we say throw the ball deep. That means 20 yards or more down the field in terms of the target depth from the line of scrimmage. That's considered a deep throw. The Bills did it 15% of the time last year. So you're talking about 15% of their passing plays. It's not a leading part of what any offense does. But 15% was still top 5 in terms of frequency in the NFL. So if this is going to be a big part of what you do relative to what teams do with vertical passing, it'd be nice to be better at it. You're going to do it a lot, relatively speaking. Be good at it. And I understand there's a lot that goes into the lack of success throwing the ball down the field the last 2 years, including vertical receiving talent. I think play caller changes. All of that matters a lot. Josh Allen's own accuracy issues with some of the deep stuff. It's all part of it. But I think there's always going to be an aggressive nature in Josh Allen to push the ball down the field. I'd like for the results to be better. I think doing it to some level of frequency still matters. Like, even if you're not good at it, you still have to throw the ball down the field and show teams that you're willing to do it. But if you're not very good at it, let's not do it 15% of the time. I think Elijah Moore and Josh Palmer can help a ton here. I think developing chemistry with Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid can help a ton here. I think more stable stuff in general offensively will give Khalil Shakir more chances down the field. There's a lot of pathways for this to improve. But we're talking about 2 years in a row of the Bills being a bottom-tier vertical passing offense. So, yeah, I'm concerned about it. I want to see this improve because you start adding more of this to this offense that can run the ball, that can win with yards after catch. I mean, come on now. So I'm hopeful that there's improvements with vertical passing, but it's something I'm concerned about because it takes away from the offensive efficiency. Number 3, in terms of things I'm concerned about, it is the chemistry with Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman. Huge investments, right? Like, was that back-to-back top picks in the draft for the Bills, Kincaid and Coleman? And the Bills need those players to be answers. I think they can be, especially Kincaid. Still a Dalton Kincaid truther here. I know there's not many of us left. Not sure what happened there, but people fell off that bandwagon quick. I don't think you should. I've spoken and written, or I've talked and wrote. I don't know what words I'm looking for here. I've done a lot of content on why I think there's a lot to be excited about with Dalton Kincaid. A lot. But I am concerned about that chemistry coming together this year in addition to Keon Coleman. Meanwhile, you're still onboarding Elijah Moore and Josh Palmer. I'm excited for all of those players. But that has to come together. Those are very meaningful pieces of what this offense can be. And we've seen varying levels of chemistry established for Josh Allen with targets. So where does that go this year? I think so much of the ceiling of this offense will be defined by how Josh Allen connects with Kincaid, Coleman, Moore, and Palmer. And we either need to completely see chemistry because it's never happened with Moore and Palmer, or we need to see it get better in the case of Kincaid and Coleman. It's a big, big, big factor in this offense in 2025 and beyond. So that's what I'm concerned about. The quarterback depth, the vertical passing components, and developing chemistry with Kincaid, Coleman, Moore, and Palmer. Coming up next, what I'm curious about concerning Josh Allen and the Bills quarterbacks in 2025. So folks, be sure to stick with me. All right, folks, welcome back. Let's get into what I'm curious about concerning Josh Allen, Bills quarterbacks in 2025. The number one thing that I'm curious about is the sustainability of eliminating negative plays. The Bills, Josh Allen last year had the greatest season in NFL history of eliminating negative plays. Here's the number. Josh Allen achieved the lowest percentage of negative plays, which are sacks, fumbles, and interceptions, in NFL history among quarterbacks that had at least 500 snaps. 4.2%. How sustainable is that? Now, let's first acknowledge that we're talking about the greatest season ever in that capacity. Ever. I mean, Peyton Manning and Ben Roethlisberger were the only other two that, or the only others that were, that's top three. Josh Allen, Peyton Manning, and Ben Roethlisberger. I don't remember the years for Manning and Roethlisberger. I'm not expecting 4.2% again because I think obviously that's historically great. But can you flirt with it? Can you flirt with it? Be huge. You know, an uncomfortable conversation regarding NFL football is that games are lost more than they are won. I know we don't want to admit that. We want us to go be aggressive and go take it and go do it, and Josh Allen to throw for all the yards and put up 50 points. Like, I love that as much as anyone. More often than not, games are lost more than they are won. You watch that divisional round game against Baltimore. You think the Bills outplayed the Ravens? No chance. The Ravens lost the game. Unforced errors. Taking care of the football. Football 101. You want to have a chance to win games? Take care of the ball. And Josh Allen did that at an exceptional rate last year. Can he flirt with 4.2%? We'll find out. I'm curious if that's sustainable. I'm also curious of how important it is that it's low again, Do the Bills have more margin for error because they're more dynamic overall offensively, but because they're better on defense? Do they have a better margin for error because they're better on special teams? Certainly all possible. So maybe Josh Allen doesn't need to be that good at this, but I don't know. I want it all, right? I want Josh Allen to be great at eliminating negative plays, to have all the explosive elements, to be great on defense, to be great on special teams. I want it all. So regardless of what the rest of the team looks like, there's no downside to Josh Allen having another season of unbelievable elimination of negative plays. So I'm curious if that's sustainable and if it needs to be. The second thing of things I have written down under what I'm curious about is if the Bills will pass more. Ever since I did that target distribution podcast, there's been a lot of conversation about how much the Bills will pass the ball. And I shared repeatedly throughout that episode that I wish I had more targets. But this 1.5-year sample size of Joe Brady tells me 30 to 33 passing attempts per game per Josh Allen. And the Bills were, bottom 5 in pass frequency. They were top 5 in run frequency last year. Will the Bills pass more? It was by far Josh Allen's lowest season in terms of passing attempts. I've received more feedback on this than probably anything I've ever done, where people have sent me emails and messages about why the Bills will pass more. And people are saying things like, well, they have better receiver talent this year, or the defense will be better, or, Josh Allen sat a lot in the third and fourth quarters. Bills didn't throw as much in the second half because there's blowouts. All of that stuff's always been true. I think the Bills like this recipe of being two-dimensional, controlling the line of scrimmage. Sean McDermott's preached it for years. They've had a lot of success over the last 1.5 years with this style of play. Maybe the Bills will pass more, but I'm not expecting this to be 600 passing attempts for Josh Allen. I think he can flirt with maybe the mid 550s, but I'm not expecting the Bills to be this high volume passing offense. I expect them to be a very good offense, but it doesn't have to be because they throw the ball 600 times. So I'm curious how much the Bills throw it, and if it's materially different than what we've seen in the 1.5 years of Joe Brady as the play caller. I mean, if you count the playoffs, I think it's like 28 games. It's kind of working. I'm not sure the Bills are going to disrupt it more. I think the most compelling argument you can make about the Bills passing the ball more is that the receivers are better and there's more continuity with the receivers. And so if that's their best way to move the ball and score points, maybe they will lean into some more throwing early, get leads, and then preserve your two-dimensional elements. But we'll see how it goes. The Bills haven't done that really with any level of consistency under Joe Brady. So I'm curious about how much the Bills throw the ball in 2025. The last thing I have down about things I'm curious about is, what does a consecutive MVP season for Josh Allen look like? I think there's really good competition out there for the NFL MVP award. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield. There's going to be good players out there that are going to have good seasons. And Josh Allen's the reigning MVP. But his path to winning MVP last year was more rooted in lower expectations and Josh Allen leading this team. Obviously it's a regular season award, but I don't think people had the same level of expectation for Josh Allen. So the reduced expectation and then him going out and having a great season and taking care of the football, that led to him being the NFL MVP. He's been statistically more impressive in his career. He's had more yards. He's had more touchdowns in other seasons. He didn't win it because of yards and touchdowns. Because if that were the case, he should have 3 or 4 NFL MVPs. I think he's going to have to convince voters in a new way. I think he needs monster stats. And I think the Bills need to win 14 or more games. So I think a top 2 seed preferably the 1 seed. Every bit of 5,000 yards from scrimmage, 50 touchdowns, total touchdowns. I think that's what's going to take for Josh Allen to repeat as MVP, because I think there's going to be a lot of other really good quarterbacks that have really good seasons as well. That plus keeping the turnovers down. So I think the formula for back-to-back MVPs looks different for Josh Allen this year. And obviously a lot of that's in his control, but he can't control the years that other people had. The year he was the runner-up and Aaron Rodgers won it, if Aaron Rodgers didn't have that season, Josh would have been the MVP. So there could be a situation where things are close and maybe there's something more impressive about what that other quarterback did, because Josh Allen showed the whole world what he's capable of last year, taking that team to the AFC Championship game. People expect Josh Allen to put up numbers and be really good. So there's a new path. All right, so what does back-to-back MVP seasons look like for Josh Allen? I think it's monster stats, a top 2 seed, and low turnovers. It's going to be hard. Not impossible, but I think it's going to be hard. And a lot of that's because I think there's really good competition as well. So that's what I'm curious about. Sustainability of eliminating those negative plays, if the Bills pass the ball more, and what back-to-back MVP seasons would look like for Josh Allen. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this. We'll be certainly doing this for all the positions here in the coming weeks, in addition to herd mentality, in addition to some creative discussions that I have queued up for the coming weeks. So don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. Look forward to catching up with you again real soon.